Hello friends, welcome to the Global Pulse. Whatever America does, what is US media saying about PM Modi's visit to Russia? PM Modi is in Russia where he was warmly welcomed. The entire world is watching his visit closely. Worldwide media has prominently covered this news. There are various discussions about this visit in the American media as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a 2-day visit to Russia starting Monday. In the capital Moscow, President Vladimir Putin warmly welcomed him. On Monday, an informal meeting took place between the two leaders at Putin's official residence, Kremlin, in Novoogoryovo, Moscow. On Tuesday, Modi participated in the 22nd India-Russia Annual Summit. This is PM Modi's first visit to Russia since the war between Russia and Ukraine began in February 2022, and it is being discussed in media worldwide. The American media is also closely watching Modi's visit, and it is being said that Modi's visit shows that the White House's efforts to isolate Russia have not been successful and that India is following its independent foreign policy. The American newspaper The Washington Post writes about PM Modi's visit to Russia, stating that this is the first time Modi has visited Russia since the Ukraine war began, sending a clear signal. Despite American pressure, India will maintain its strong relationship with Russia. The newspaper writes, pictures of Modi embracing the Russian president in Moscow clearly indicate that no matter how much effort the Biden administration puts into bringing India into its fold, India will maintain strong ties with Russia. The newspaper also mentioned, Modi visited Russia less than a month after taking office for the third time, showing Putin that even though India-US cooperation is at its highest level in decades, India has not slipped into the Western camp. The decision of PM Modi to visit Russia early in his term is a signal that India is attaching the same importance to its relations with Russia, an integral part of India's foreign policy cutting across party lines. Pankaj Saran, former Indian ambassador to Russia and deputy national security advisor, was quoted as saying by The Washington Post. Saran says that the Indian government is carefully balancing its relationships with both Russia and the United States, attempting to reassure the U.S. that dialogue between India and Russia is a means of communication between Western countries and Russia. Saran states that the Indian government is prioritizing its relationship with the United States. India can argue that, as a friend of Russia, it can play a mediating role between Western countries and Russia. Indian officials and observers hope that in return for India's support, Putin can signal to Modi that he is independent of India's enemy China, not influenced by it, it said. The meeting between Modi and Putin is happening at a time when the 3-day NATO summit is starting in Washington from Tuesday. On questions about the Modi-Putin meeting, spokesperson Matthew Miller of the U.S. State Department said, "We have clearly discussed our concerns with India regarding our relations with Russia." The American newspaper, The New York Times writes that PM Modi's visit signals that despite Western efforts to isolate Russia, Modi has not changed his diplomatic course. The newspaper writes, for Putin, Modi's visit is a way to show that despite deepening relations with the United States, strong cooperation between Russia and India remains intact. India has purchased large quantities of cheap oil from Russia, which has helped Russia cope with international sanctions and replenish its revenue. Russia wants India to be a partner in reshaping the Western-dominated global order. The newspaper writes that to counter China, India needs both America and Russia, and it is striving to balance its relations with both countries. Although India has strengthened its relations with America, despite this pressure, India has refused to publicly criticize Russia for the Ukraine war. Associate professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University and Indian foreign policy expert Happyman Jacob, speaking to an American newspaper, said that to counter the growing closeness between China and Russia, India is trying to strengthen its relations with Russia. They say that perhaps India feels that America will never impose any kind of sanctions on it to enhance relations with Russia because China is emerging as America's main rival. America needs India to balance China. Quoting Nandan Unnikrishnan from the Observer Research Foundation's Eurasia Studies program, an American newspaper wrote, India's defense relations with Russia could be a reason for concern for America, but these relations cannot undermine America's military cooperation with India. American broadcaster Voice of America has titled its news related to PM Modi's visit to Russia, Modi arrives in Moscow while keeping Russia-China closeness in mind. VOA began the news by writing, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Russia on Monday for a two-day visit at a time when Russia is strengthening its relationship with China, India's staunch opponent. Analysts say that in the past 5 years, Modi's first visit to Russia is primarily to reaffirm India's traditional friendship with Russia. VOA writes that Modi's visit to Russia is also crucial for Putin, and through this, they are showing the West that they are not isolated by sanctions. The article states, some analysts see Modi's visit to Russia as timed with the NATO summit starting on Tuesday. In this summit, Western countries will focus on Ukraine. Thank you very much for watching. Always stay with us for the latest news and updates as they happen across the globe. Goodbye and see you soon.